Hello, Wadikani. Thank you for joining me, Rosemary, on the Children's Chimurenga. I've just made a video about a particular kind of meditation technique called self-inquiry. And to tell the truth, I found it quite difficult to access that particular technique or approach when I was first introduced to it many, many years ago. But there are other methods. Too many for me personally to talk about. There are so many different ways to connect with spirit. And actually everything is a way to connect with spirit, even those things that we think are not connected to spirit. So all I can do here is speak about what has worked for me, but in no way do I reject or push away any other ways that any other being has had success in connecting with themselves. And so as much as I talk about religion and religious colonization and the slavery of spirit that I have personally experienced through the journey, how my journey has been set up, coming from a colonized country in which we had our own spiritual practice, which was usurped by religion, not by Christ himself, but by representatives not representatives of Christ, people claiming to be representatives in order to gain control over the spirit, collective spirit of the people of my country. And once you are spiritually colonized, then it is much easier to colonize from the mental realm, the emotional realm, and the physical realm as well. And so now that we are in the physical and we have gained our physical independence, it is time to climb back up individually through the realms and to reclaim our spiritual sovereignty. And for me, practices such as these that are non-dogmatic, non-attached to a particular religion, non-ascribing, there are no rules, there are no regulations. Everything is left down to you as an individual and your personal journey of individuation and blossoming and opening to yourself, which is in itself becomes the motivation, the nectar for the bee that is you to return home. So these structures of religion that I grew up in had the effect of placing my spirituality in a prison. And that may not have been their initial intent, even as a religious entity, not as a spiritual entity in relation to Christ and Christ consciousness and the message and the energy that Christ anchored in on this plane. But that is an energy. Energy, haibatiki. It doesn't fit inside structures and uniforms and things made by man. And yet we still make them. And maybe at the very inception of a religious Christianity, there was still that connection to Christ consciousness. But that has certainly been bastardized over the course of history, certainly been usurped. and co-opted for the negative intentions and power and control needs of others. So a journey has to be made. A journey of freedom. It's like picking up a sack and setting off to find the self outside of the prescriptions of others. Because the only thing that we have proof of as an individual, the only thing I have proof of is myself. The only thing that I can feel, truly feel 100%, and nobody else can tell me about it is me. So who better to find out about me than me? Who better to know who is me than me? So these techniques are helpful in going on an individual, personalized journey back to the self. Not by someone saying, you have to do this or you will go to hell. You have to do this or you are a bad person. You are a sinner. No. The people who have been on these journeys themselves say, oh yeah, this is what I did. You can try if you want. That's it. Somehow for me, that is easier to be interested in than someone who is trying to frighten me into something. So, rant over. Not a rant. Introduction over. I've spoken about self-inquiry as a technique into internal awareness, into noticing the noticer, into becoming aware from the inside. I'm trying to point into the middle of my body right now, to the spirit that is animating this, to becoming connected with that which is inside, that has no name. The other technique I'm going to talk about is just breathing. So sitting in a comfortable position, in a quiet place, and noticing the breath, noticing your breath flowing into your body and flowing out again, and breathing in and breathing out, and trying to focus only on the breath, either on the wave that it makes through your body, up and out, up and out, breath, air, spirit. Or you can focus on it at the ends of your nostrils, coming in and out of your nose. You can focus on it in your chest, lifting your chest. Breath is the first thing. In medical school, when someone has collapsed or has had severe trauma, the first thing you check is airway and breathing. Because even circulation, even the heart cannot work if the lungs are not working. Breath is the first thing, is life. So by this practice of connecting with the breath, you are connecting with life flowing through you. And as you connect with it, you are able to become more acquainted with it. Sometimes I want to say everything that I have experienced, but I have learned from other teachers that less is more. Because that's mind already coming from me. Saying, this is what I feel, this is what you will feel. No, I don't know. I don't know. I just know that breath is life. And that connecting with that which is closest to life within us gives us a better picture of who we are and of what life is. There are many meditations on YouTube to find. There are many great teachers out there. I'll leave some links down below of people who I listen to. But we can listen all we want. We can watch as many videos as we want. But that is an outward projection of the attention. There are no answers out there. So this video is an external projection of yourself, asking you to look internally, asking you to take time out of your day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to breathe and to pay attention, to place your focus, your mind on that breathing. And when your mind wants to run, because it will, you gently bring it back. You gently bring it back to the breath. If it's really running hard, then you can even count the breaths. In and out 1, in and out 2, in and out 3, up to 10, and then start again. That gives the mind something to do. It's like giving it some knitting or just something small, not, full-blown thought, like just something small to keep it ticking over while you connect with yourself. And then at some point you might find that you've practiced enough that you don't need the numbers to help your mind to stay focused. I mentioned mantra in the other video. That's another way of keeping the mind focused, but as opposed to numbers, the vibrations of the sounds of the mantra have a spiritual quality within themselves, like a cleansing quality. So there's many, I'll write some down actually in the link below. And everything is available on this incredible network of information that we have that is here to encourage our spiritual progress, but not to draw us away from it. So try to really curate what you allow into your mind from this wealth of information that we have around us. It's really a beautiful thing, the internet and technology, when it is applied with the discipline that comes from practicing such techniques as these. So counting, breathing, bringing the mind back gently. Not Iwe, I told you, don't. And if you feel those things, that is mind. That's already a critical parent mind conditioned thought coming through. No, just gently, okay. I have a good friend who speaks to those parts, because those are parts. That part is a critical parent part. Sit down, do your homework. You said you were going to do this. Can't you just love yourself enough to just focus for a second? Come on, we're doing something here. Oh, whoa. Okay, so instead of letting that part, and then you're feeling like, oh, like I was supposed to be meditating, I completely failed. I hate this. No, that's the juice. That's good. That's noticing your mind and noticing that you're separate from it. And so you can either do two things. You can just say to that part and or you can say nothing, so you can just ignore it, come back to the breath. You can acknowledge it and say, I see you, and ask it gently to leave. But if it is very strong and very insistent on being heard, then like my good friend does, you can say, okay, thank you, I hear you, I see what you're trying to tell me something. You're trying to tell me to focus and be more focused, or you're trying to tell me that you're really worried that the application that you've put in for a new job, how's it going? But right now, I'm doing something else, and I'm doing something for us. So I will come back and talk to you when I'm finished here. Is that okay? But if you say that, then you really have to honor your promise to that part, and go back and talk to it about really what its concerns are. But you have to be firm and say, this is a time in which I am connecting with me. So those are different techniques, different ways in which to either occupy the mind or acknowledge the mind, and then be able to go and talk to the mind about whatever its concerns are at a later time. But right now, this is where I am resting in spirit. So usually a part will, once you have acknowledged it and said, I see you, I hear you, and we're going to talk about it, it will give you the space to just be. Beingness, that state of I am here, I am me. That, without anything itching or peace. That is what we're here to remember. But we have added some bells and whistles to help us along the journey. So that is the technique of connecting to the breath and to the life force through the breath to remember the self. And now that I've just mentioned that talking to the parts, I might do another video on it at a later date. But once we've spoken to that part and said, I'm going to come back and talk to you, then you can go and say, okay, later on, you finished your meditation practice. Later on, say, okay, I'm here now, let's talk. But this is you in your self energy, talking to parts of your mind that you know are not you. They are programs, they are conditions, they are tools. They are parts of you which are really helpful and amazing, but sometimes they can be intrusive as well. So you can sit down with them and say, okay, what were you? Oh, you were worried about that application. Yeah, but we did our best, didn't we? And we trust, don't we, that the universe will always give us what we need, and it might not be what we want. So even if that application is rejected, we will rejoice, won't we? Because we probably dodged a bullet, right? Because that's how we live our lives. That's how we've chosen to. We're not going to be anxious and worried and stressed anymore, because we know that everything that is coming to us is coming from Spirit. And if things are not coming, then they are not in alignment, because that's what we have declared for ourselves, right? And that part might go, oh, yeah. I was operating on the previous program. It's okay, that's cool. But I'm still really worried. I like worrying, I like having things to do. Okay, well, can we give you something useful to do, to be worried about? Can you be in charge of watering the plants and keeping them looking alive and fresh and beautiful? Because that attention to detail and that work ethic, that can really be put to use in the context of our plants, or in the context of this project that we have that really needs someone like you. But someone like you is not needed at the time of meditation or at the time of relaxation. And then this is where you begin, because you now have connected to self and are no longer attached to the mind as you, can befriend your mind, can guide your mind, can be the master, can be everything that your mind needs you to be in order for it to be the best tool and servant possible, for you to be the best tool and servant for Spirit. Thank you. See you soon.